So Wizards of the Coast's Kyle Brink is out there again doing interviews, and in a recent interview over with Bob the Builder, he stated that the Dark Sun TTRPG setting isn't going to be seeing a comeback anytime soon because Wizards of the Coast deems it to be too problematic. There is a part of me that just rolls my eyes anytime I see statements like this made because it's not just here. It's not just with Wizards of the Coast. You can also look at the controversy that's going on right now with the Roald Dahl estate and how his uh, descendants, whoever's holding the estate, have taken upon themselves to use these. I don't know what they're even calling them, sensitivity readers, who are going through all of Roald Dahl's old books and they are updating. This is the estate that's doing it. It's updating language that they deem to be problematic and they are republishing all of those classic beloved works with new language to be less offensive to essentially the woke people of the world. Um, and I'm just sitting here going, can you imagine if the Tolkien estate tried to do that with the literary works of J.R.R. Tolkien? Can you imagine the outrage, the outcry? Immediately, anyone owning, original editions, those things would become worth, their weight in gold. Um, it's the same similar scenario here. It's kind of like, I guess I liken it to if you took a famous painting, like let's say we took a look at the Mona Lisa, and we suddenly decided that we weren't allowed to show women's faces anymore, and so an artist would go in, and they would paint her face over and like cover it with a mask or something, and to modernize it and make it more palpable and make it less offensive to the people of the current era. The moment you do that, you've destroyed that work of art and it no longer exists. So it blows my mind when people want to redo art, but whatever. I'm ranting politically here, probably a little bit too much first thing in the morning here. But anyway, I found this fascinating because if you read through, this is the article over at Wargamer, and they talk about one of the some of the aspects over here. So they said. Kyle Brink made a return to the Dark Sun D&D setting. Seemed pretty unlikely because in an interview on February 22nd, which was yesterday, he tells D&D YouTuber Bob Worldbuilder, the Dark Sun setting is problematic in a lot of ways, and it's the main reason we haven't come back to it. It originally appeared in 1991 and transported D&D to a post-apocalyptic desert world with darker themes and less focus on magic. It said the fantasy setting shook up the tabletop RPG's traditional fantasy formula. There hasn't been any first-party Dark Sun content since D&D 4th edition, but it remains popular with players. But despite the fact that he has a huge following, um, the potential problematic aspects that Brinks is referring to are numerous, says this article. Apparently, there are sensitive topics like genocide, which are ingrained in the setting, and slavery is commonplace. Also, some of the D&D races from the setting also potentially perpetuate harmful stereotypes, such as, for example, the halflings who live in forest tribes and are known for cannibalism, and the moles are a race of slaves noted for being particularly violent. I'm going to stop right there because the description of everything they just read, I don't find to be offensive in the least. And to me, that defines a perfect, dark, post apocalyptic setting where there are cannibals and there isn't a lot of magic. And I'm thinking about have any of you ever read the Battle Circle books? Or it's not books, sorry, there was a book called Battle Circle by Piers Anthony, which was this post apocalyptic setting. It was kind of like instead of a sword and it wasn't even so much sword and magic, sword and sorcery. It was just like a world where we had gotten so far beyond post-apocalyptic that it had reverted back to the time of basically Conan the Barbarian style where everyone was just fighting and it was like Mad Max on steroids. So when I think about that kind of stuff, yes, absolutely, that is a dangerous, nasty place. There are cannibals. There is slavery. Here's the thing. Um, our book series, The Weave and the Void, that we're working on right now, has slavery in it. It does. It also has cannibalism. It also has some creepy zombie creatures. It has a genocide that's literally taking place as a result of a plague that's going on, and the human church is blaming the elven mages, and as a result, they're out on a crusade to literally wipe elves off the face of the planet. And as the course of the story evolves, they're going to be including the dwarves and the halflings and the brownies and every other non-human race in that. Are we saying that we're not allowed to talk about genocide and racism and slavery in our fantasy settings because a few precious little snowflakes are going to get upset about it? I find that to be incredibly disingenuous to the intelligent people of the world. And I just can't get behind this idea that you can't republish some of the works that have come before because they're problematic. But this is Wizards of the Coast we're talking about. Like they have been dancing around this issue with, um, well, we have to protect the opinions and not be offensive, and these we can't have the races have stats that give them negatives because that would be racist, so we have to tie the stats to backgrounds so that we can make it non-offensive. And I'm just like, this dives into, if anybody's ever listened to the Bill Burr bit where he comes on Joe Rogan's podcast, I think it was after he had just come back from India, and he was talking about how he went to India, and it has a diverse array of cultures and wealth strata. And you can go from the extreme wealth of the cities to the extreme poverty of everything outside of the city. And he's talking about when you go there and you see the abject poverty of millions of people who are living in conditions that we can't even fathom as people from the first world, right? And he says you see all that and you experience it and you're there every day and you come back to LAX and you get off the plane and the first thing you're hit with is like some television show where you've got some person on the television screen, whether it's a vegan or a plus size model or somebody, and they're sitting there talking about how, you know, down with fat shaming, down with, attacking veganism and all these, things of where, I'm being offended. And you look at the other culture and it's like they're living through the most horrific starvation you've ever seen. They can't get water to drink. We have a war going on in Ukraine. Like there are literally life-threatening things happening on the planet, and yet we can't publish a fantasy setting because it has slavery in it and it has genocide, and that's offensive to some people. I just, oh man, I can't wrap my head around it. Maybe it's because I'm old and white, right? Maybe that's just what it is. That's my limitation. I'm an old white dude and I can't understand any of this because to me, you can't have a world that's interesting unless the world has bad things in it. That's the whole purpose for heroes existing, is to overcome these bad things. It could be slavery, it could be genocide, it could be, it could be magic gone awry. It could be so many things. But to suggest that just because something has slavery in it, or just because something has genocide in it, that that's problematic and might be offensive to some people, man, it comes back around to that article I talked about a couple days ago here on the channel about the angry vegan who demanded that the DM change his world to be cruelty free because they didn't want anybody eating animals or killing animals or harming animals in their D&D campaign. And it was just like, I'm done. I'm done with snowflake players. Makes me laugh. What has the world come to? Anyway, it's just the news. I'm reporting on it. Do with it as you will. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon if you want more of the same as I continue to talk about things tabletop and gaming news. If you can support, please do so. All the ways that are listed down there. But yeah, easiest way is memberships here, memberships on the Patreon page. You get a lot of other cool perks over there. So check it out. Links to Discord are down below. I'll see everybody in the next video, which will probably be in a couple of hours. Until then, stay safe.